We're going to talk about publishing incomes and the types of money you can earn. So I'm going to repeat that just in case I got cut off. What's happening? Bobby Borg, also known as Coach, doing office hours. Today we're talking about publishing incomes and the monies that you could earn from the publishing of your music. One more time. What's happening, you guys? Bobby Borg, office hours, Coach, professor, hanging out, getting ready to talk about sync, print, and foreign subpublishing. Actually, we got synchronization royalties, print royalties. We also got foreign subpublishing income, and we also got electronic income as well. Okay? So let's go ahead and hit all of these types of income for you. So just keep in mind, last week, I got some chapstick on my lips. Last week we talked about the fact that when you take an original idea from your head and you put it into a tangible form, a copyright is formed, and that gives you an exclusive bundle right in the United States copyright law. Gives you the rights to copy, the rights to distribute, the rights to a public performance, and the rights to a derivative work. That also gives you the rights that when your music is published, when it's made available for commercial sale to the public, that it is going to generate certain incomes. We discussed mechanical royalties and performance royalties in the last office hours. Now let's go ahead and talk about synchronization royalties, okay? So synchronization royalties, also called sync, is another food group of music publishing. And that basically is a royalty or a fee that is generated when your music is synced with audiovisual images, okay? So it's audio-visual. So when your music is synced with the visual image, a sync fee is essentially generated. Something that you have to understand is, unlike mechanical royalties or performance royalties, which are a little bit more complicated, sync royalties are a negotiated fee, and it's based on a number of factors that I'm going to discuss in a minute. Also interesting to note is that typically when you're licensing a piece of music, right, you're also, technically there's also a recording of that music too as well. So it could potentially generate two types of income, a synchronization fee and also what's called a master fee. Now, many times as an independent artist, you own both of those, right? Because you've created the song and you've also created the master of that song. So typically when you're licensing that, you're going to get what's called an all-in fee. You're going to get both the sync fee and also the master use fee, right? Now, if you don't own it, then obviously there's other owners involved. So you might be licensing the song, but then the master has to be licensed from the master owner, such as the record company. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Another really cool thing that you need to understand real quick about synchronization too as well, is that after you get the initial sync fee for the use, then also when it performs, right, when it plays on television, when it plays on that television show, then there's also gonna be a performance royalty involved too. So that could be super cool for you. So in short, I love synchronization, right? And the reason why I like synchronization so much is because the money that you could generate, and let's just say, for example, one fee, even an independent artist that's licensing a piece of music in a television show, like it could be an MTV type show, or it could be, something on Netflix or something of that nature, could generate a couple $100, and you would have to get thousands of streams on Spotify in order to get that kind of money, right? So number one, it could be a nice source of income. Number two, also what's great about sync is the fact that it could really help to sort of get your career going. Just one synchronization in a really cool TV show could be really great for getting you exposed and getting your music out there. So definitely independent artists should be trying to pitch their music in synchronization, and not just in big films and big television shows, but you should be doing really creative things too. Like, I have literally seen people get their music licensed in things like spin classes and things like that, through like Peloton, and get their music used in small documentary films and things of that nature. Okay, I'm gonna pause real quick just to say what's up, MTB Shredder. What's up, Nomad? What's up, Brenda? What's up? It looks like Denji Latino. Anyway, what's happening, you guys? Just saying hi, and we're just talking about the monies that you can earn from music publishing. Okay, so we're talking a little bit about synchronization right now. And what's up, Commander Rick? All right, so let's continue. So I told you a little bit about what synchronization is. Some of the more common uses is when your music is used in film, when it's used in TV shows, when it's used in video games, when it's used in commercials, maybe when it's used in metaverse type stuff. So there's a lot of different possibilities here. Let's talk about some of the points of negotiation. These are the things that might determine what your fee is going to be. So the first thing that be, what is the type of use? Is it a movie? Is it a TV show? Is it an advertisement? Is it a video game? All of these different uses are going to generate, potentially different fees that can be negotiated. What's happening in the scene? So this is very, very important as well. What precisely is happening in the scene? In some cases, if the scene is a murder scene or a rape scene or something very, very violent that potentially could affect the brand of the song as well, that might up the negotiation fee. What's the placement of the use? So in other words, is the sync being used at the beginning of the movie or at the end? These are called beginning titles and end titles. That's very, very important because that's when you normally have the most attention of the viewer. What's the length of the use? So how long is it being used? What's the popularity of the song itself or of the actors in the film or of the director that's doing the film or of the studio, right, that's doing the film? Is there any dialogue in the scene? So when your music is playing, is there dialogue on top of it? Or is your music featured? That's also very, very important. Is it in the background? So for example, is it just sort of like, it's back there, but it's not necessarily the focus. So there's all types of other things too. There's also what's called in context and out of context. So out of context might be if the song from the film is used sort of as the trailer as well. It's so in other words, it's out of the context. It's out of the context of the film, but now it's being used in a trailer. Do they have the license to do that? So all these factors are going to help to determine how much you can actually negotiate for the use of your song. Okay? There's so many really, really cool examples that you can check out. I have them all listed in my book, by the way. This is a new book that came out, Intro to Music Publishing for Musicians. If you guys don't have this, you should check it out. It's literally 3 days old. All right, let's move on now. Another type of income that you can earn from music publishing is called print royalties. Now, print royalties are not a major form of income, but they used to be. They used to be the major form of income. So right now, print royalties are, a small percentage of the publishing pie, but nonetheless, they're important to talk about. So what are they? Print royalties are the monies you earn when your music is put in printed form. So that can include a variety of different types of printed forms. So let's talk about them. Number one is sheet music. When your music is used in sheet music, like the sheet music that you put up on the music stand or you put up on a piano, you take it out of the piano bench and put up on your piano, that's called sheet music. Also, there's something called folios. So that basically means when you have the best of Elton John or you have the best of the Police or the best of the Beatles, those books that are created, those are called folios. Another usage is called a matching folio. So a matching folio is a situation when your music is put in a book that exactly matches the record, the same sequencing, the same cover. So a very famous one is Pink Floyd The Wall, and it's got the Pink Floyd The Wall, album cover, and then all the songs are in the same order, and it's got some pictures. And then you might have what's called a mixed folio. And a mixed folio is when you mix the Hal Leonard's gigantic songbook or something like that, where it has all the greatest guitar, type rock songs in there by different artists. Okay. All right. So what else do we need to know real quick? I guess what we need to know is also, how are you paid? So what is the division of print incomes? So let's talk about that real quick. Well, the interesting thing about print is that it's handled a little bit differently than mechanical royalties or performance royalties. In those particular cases, usually you had money that is collected by the publisher, and then the publisher takes, a percentage of that and pays it to the writer. But in this particular case, these are situations that are essentially paid on a retail and wholesale price. And it's paid on a percentage of the retail wholesale price. So typically what happens is this. For sheet music, the music printer that's actually printing the music is going to pay or charge $5, pay 20% of that to the publisher, which is $1, and then the $1, the publisher turns around and pays the writer a flat 10 to 12 cents. In the terms of folios, the music printer will sell the book for $25. The publisher will receive about 10 to 12% of that, which is $2.50, and then the publisher will turn around and pay the writer half of that. Okay. As far as the matching folio goes, it's the same calculation as the previous one, and the mixed folios are actually the same calculation as the matching and the folios too as well. But here's what's interesting. It's prorated based on the number of songs that you have in the catalog, right? So if it's for a mixed folio, if it's $25 and you're paying the publisher, and the publisher gets, 10% of that, so that's going to be $2.50. But let's just say that I only own, like half of the songs, right? So if I only own 10 out of the 20 songs on there, then it's prorated. So I'm going to get one half of that royalty, of the royalty I normally get, right? So it's prorated. All right, let's move on real quick. The other thing we're going to talk about now is electronic transmissions. Electronic transmissions, if you remember from a couple videos in the past, or a couple office hours in the past, and this is just a really quick overview, right? Electronic transmissions are when you take the 4 food groups of music publishing and you put them in electronic form. So when you have mechanical royalties, performance royalties, sync, and print in the electronic realm, they're handled differently, but we call them electronic transmissions. So let's take interactive audio streaming like Spotify, Apple Music, and Tidal. So when your music plays on Spotify, it's not only performing, so it gets a performance royalty, but it's also copying. So in order to play, it's copying in your cache on your computer, which triggers a mechanical royalty. So for Spotify income, you have to get a performance royalty, and you're also going to get a mechanical royalty, okay? And this is on the publishing side. Also, what gets a mechanical royalty is digital downloads as well. So when your music is in a digital download form, it's copying, so you get a mechanical royalty. As far as performance royalties go, interactive audio streaming on Spotify, as I just pointed out. How about when your music is played on Pandora and SiriusXM? That's a performance royalty. And how about when your videos play on YouTube? That's also a performance royalty. How about interactive video streaming like YouTube? That's also a synchronization, because you remember there's now audio and visual as well. So that's an audio visual, so that's synchronization. And then print, when your music is downloaded, like downloadable sheet music, that generates a print royalty. Or how about when your music is on lyric websites like Genius, right? That triggers a print royalty, okay? So it's a little bit confusing, but generally speaking, these are the types of incomes that you could make online. Some of you guys might be wondering, what happens when your music is played in a podcast? Well, if your music is played in a podcast, that could generate a performance royalty. If the podcast is downloadable, that could be a mechanical royalty, right? So all these things are essentially still being worked out. Okay. Simply, there's no like blanket license for a podcast or something. So usually the podcast owner would go to the publisher to negotiate the fees. All right, let's move on to foreign sub-publishing now. So what is foreign sub-publishing? Foreign sub-publishing is when your 4 food groups of music publishing are now in foreign territory. Sorry about that. We got a police car going by, or an ambulance going by. All right, so now if we talk about foreign sub-publishing is the money is when these 4 food groups are used in foreign territories. Essentially how it works is a little bit more complicated though. Generally speaking, Here's how it works. In the United States, it's quite different, but in foreign territories, your music is collected by what's called foreign mechanical and foreign government-run mandatory societies that collect money. And then what they do is they issue it out to what's called sub-publishers in that territory that are supposed to register the songs to the societies. Once the sub-publisher gets that money, they then pay the people in the United States, and that's how you get paid. But what happens if you don't have any sub-publisher representing you in foreign territories? How are you going to get your money? Well, you're not. And potentially what could happen is it falls into what's called a black box. And after a certain period of years, that money gets divided up between the sub-publishers of those territories, and other authors and owners get your money. So you're out of luck, right? So in order to collect your money in foreign territories, you need to have representation in foreign territories. You need to have somebody claiming those royalties and registering them with the foreign societies so that you can collect them, right? This is something that a lot of people don't know. So when your music is streaming on Spotify, essentially it's also streaming in Germany, it's also streaming in other territories, right? So who's collecting that money? Now, if you're an independent artist, it's probably going to be really small amounts, but you should at least start learning about this stuff. So, you need a representative in that territory to potentially collect money. Who is negotiating sync licenses in those territories? Like nobody, right? If someone wants to use your song in a video game, who's like negotiating and making sure that money's collected properly? Like, I guess nobody, right? So in essence, if you remember anything from this brief overview, you need to have someone representing you in those foreign territories in order to be able to collect those generated incomes. There's roundabout ways that you might be able to do it through organizations here in the US that have reciprocal agreements in those with societies all around the world, but it gets very complicated and it's not the most accurate way to collect. It's way above like the average independent artists. You guys don't have time for this stuff. You have to write songs and be an artist. So please just remember that in the best case scenario, you need to get a sub-publisher in those areas, okay? Now, really quickly, let me just tell you, mechanical royalties are handled differently here in the US. We're based on pretty much like a penny system, right? I already told you that the current rate is 12.7 cents per record made and distributed for CDs and vinyls, and for, interactive, Spotify streaming and stuff like that, the rates are also different. And they are currently, I think it's 15.25% of the service revenue. But nonetheless, in foreign territories, they don't work on a penny system rate. They work on a percentage of the retail selling price or wholesale price of the record. So that's one of the major differences. The other problem is the performances there. The writer's share will make its way to US PROs through reciprocal agreements, but how is the publisher's share of income going to be collected? It's going to be much difficult, right? It's much, much more difficult. Also, when we're talking about synchronization in TV, there's what's called a blanket compulsory license. So TV is not negotiable for synchronization in foreign territories. In other words, people are allowed to license it at a compulsory in a compulsory rate, and your master as well. So it can't be negotiated as far as TV goes. Okay, film, video games can, right? So there's differences between how the monies are handled. All right. So that's pretty much it, you guys, as a quick review. My name is Bobby Borg, helping musicians turn the art to more successful business. Remember, if you want to really get the scoop on this stuff, make sure to read the chapters in that book. I literally do these live sessions all the time, typically before class, just to kind of review, so students that missed the class can get a chance to kind of get an overview, and for other people that are interested, they can get a general overview. But by far, this is just really the top level stuff. All right, you guys. So I'm just chilling. You can see kind of where I'm hanging. Cool little dogs running around and stuff. All right, you guys. So peace, love, and later. Take care. Bye-bye.